Hey y'all.
Hey y'all.
What's up? This is El Presidente.
This is your boy, Gospel Icon, my Harold Peoples Jr.
It's Lady, also known as Leah, and you're now watching.
And you're listening to Speaking Plain English.
And the Speaking Plain English with your host Roberta.
Your beautiful host, Roberta Johnson.
With my homegirl, Roberta, on Praise.fm.
On Praise FM.
Hello. Happy Saturday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speaking Plain English. I am your host, Roberta, and before we get started, I just want to say welcome to everyone who is here. Welcome to Facebook. Welcome to Praise FM. Welcome to Instagram. We finally got you together. So welcome to Instagram. Welcome to YouTube. Welcome to everyone who is joining us here. We are so happy to have you watching again. We ask that you do the wonderful things where you're liking and you're sharing and you're subscribing and all of those media things. You know what I mean? Because what we want to do, we want to make sure that this episode today is special to me. So I want to make sure that everyone who needs to see this does. So we're going to have quite a discussion, quite a topic today. Before I introduce our guest and introduce our topic, I want to just, Lord, come on, brain. I want to just make a couple of announcements. One of our announcements being that I want to celebrate those who may have had a birthday this week, starting from the 7th, which was, oh my Lord, my little cousin Zoe, her birthday. Oh my God. Her birthday was on Sunday, wasn't it? Yes, I call her Zozo. So my little cousin Zozo's birthday, which is my cousin Parrish, which I remember when he was in diapers. He's a daddy now, and it's making me feel some kind of way. Oh my goodness. So happy birthday to Zozo on I'm sorry, I don't say that. My bad. It's happy Earth Entry Anniversary. That's me. Happy Earth Entry Anniversary to Zozo. I believe she is 3 years old today. So Parrish, if you're here, if you see me, or Carlene, if you see me or see me on here, correct that for me if I need to. I'm trying to think if there were any more. While you're here, if there's anybody whose birthday that you would like to shout out, please make sure you do. We're going to put them in the comments, and we're going to celebrate, because that's what we do. We like to celebrate people. We like to support. That's what Speaking Plain English is all about. All right. So, guys, I am not going to take up too much more time. I just want to make sure that everyone is here. Like I said, make sure you do your liking and subscribing. And hey, come and talk with us. You know what I mean? Like, leave your comments. Let us know you're here. Say hello. I already see we got 2. Hey, Lady Rain. How are you, my dear? And my mama, who's always here to support. Hi, mommy. Thank y'all for always showing up, So what I'm going to do is I am going to read a brief bio of our guest, who is absolutely phenomenal. I actually met her through my best friend. Shout out to Corey, aka Gypsy. I met her at a show that was a tribute to Aretha Franklin, the late great Aretha Franklin. And when I tell you, this girl did her absolute singing. Y'all know y'all know me. Those of you who know me, y'all know when it comes to good food and good music, I will never see you wrong. So therefore, when I tell you she she does her singing, she does her singing, honey. Trust. Okay. So I'm going to bring up her bio if I can get it. You know what? I have it here. So my guest, her name is YahZarah, who is a singer, a songwriter who has captivated audiences with her mesmerizing voice, electrifying stage presence, and a unique perspective as an art heroine. Her music explores a wide range of genres, including soul, rock, pop, hip hop, and jazz. And with her solo work, she's garnered praise from fans and critics alike, placing her in the same league as artists like Janelle Monáe, Erykah Badu, and Bilal, and as well as drawing inspiration from legendary figures such as Tina Turner, Shaka Khan, and Lenny Kravitz. Her latest album, The Ceremony, showcases her fiery rock and soul sound, creating an immersive live concert experience with its otherworldly synthesizers, powerful drums, and dynamic strings. And her pen is ridiculous too, y'all. YahZarah is widely recognized by music insiders as possessing one of the greatest voices of our generations. She has been compared to the likes of Minnie Riperton, Grace Jones, and Tina Turner. Her performances are effortlessly electric, embodying both the tenderness of Adele and the audacity of Prince. She has shared the stage with renowned artists such as The Roots, Anderson .Paak, and Bilal Oliver, and headlined Anthony Hamilton's Playing It Cool tour at the House of Blues. YahZarah's musical journey began as a soprano in Erykah Badu's band Camp Wisdom, where she spent 7 years providing background vocals and vocal arrangements for the beloved songs on Badu's Mama's Gun. I love that album. Love that. I think that's the only Erykah Badu album that I actually purchased, to be honest. And I loved every track on it. She later joined rock legend Lenny Kravitz's band, performing with them for 4 years on the Strut Tour and contributing vocals to Kravitz's rockumentary Just Let Go. Her previous release, The Ballad of Purple St. James, received Grammy consideration in 6 major categories. And additionally, her latest single, Running, was featured in episode 8 of Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It, which was on Netflix. I wonder if it's still there. Overall, YahZarah's talent, versatility, and impressive collaborations have solidified her status as a standout artist in the music industry. So without further ado, we are going to bring to the stage my girl, YahZarah. How are you, my love? Uh-oh, we cannot hear you. Are you muted?
I'm here. Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Yes. Okay. Yes, today is a good day. I'm feeling good. Thank you for asking. How are you, sis?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I'm amazing. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to have you on the show. Thank you for your time, because Homegirl's got a busy schedule. She's got a busy schedule and a lot going on. And we're going to get into that. Although I don't have her on as the as our artist highlight. However, we're gonna make sure that we let you know that she, like we said, she is an artist and she's dope. Trust. All right. So I really wanted to have you here because there is some things that a lot of us really don't necessarily discuss when mothers have to fight for their children, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we're here to discuss that, and I am so upset because for some reason or another, my questions are giving me issues. Here we go.
Girl. All these technical difficulties today, girl. Me too.
You know what that usually means? Usually I find out that when you have trouble getting into things that you're supposed to, that usually, to me, that's a sign that, okay, this is supposed to happen and it's going to impact somebody.
Right.
So we're going to have this together. And so I'm going to just get you started, my dear. So let's tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? We already read your bio, but what did we miss?
I'm a proud Washingtonian by way of Ghana, West Africa. I've been to a lot of different places, from DC to Germany to North Carolina to Brooklyn. So I guess I'm a daughter of a lot of places. But I definitely attribute a lot of who I am to my time in DC and going to school in North Carolina, where my career actually started.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So how do you like that? So you right now you are in?
I'm in DC. I just
You're
moved
in
back.
DC right now. So how do you like all of the moving around and things like that? Where do you like the best? I'll put it like that.
Mm. If I'm super honest, as a woman of color, as a black woman, as a woman, I feel safest in Europe. Um,
Really?
yeah, I feel very at home there. I feel very welcome there. I feel very welcome in Africa. I've lived in Portugal. I've lived in Paris for short stays. I've been in some really interesting spaces, and I can tell you, once you see how the other side lives, you kind of start looking around in America like,
I understand.
especially if you're black, especially if you're black. But it's an interesting time in history. So when you asked me that question, maybe a few years ago, I would have said, I love my time in the South. I love my time in this country. I have a bittersweet relationship right now with this country due to its justice system, due to some of the things I have experienced. But
Mm,
it doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm not a patriot. It
got
just means that I'm observant and
you.
I go where the love is.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Just you don't have to. Ooh, I like that. So let
Yeah.
me tell you something. I have yet to be out of the country, go outside of the country. And I honestly understand and I feel you as far as it goes on, America's justice systems and so many other things that we have going on here that I'm just like, there's no way in the world this is right. There's
But
no
and
way.
I
And
know
we're gonna get into a
economic,
little bit of that later.
yeah, I mean, there's so many things right now that are rising to the surface as to me pings of alarm that
Mm,
regular people can fix today by simply being vocal and active. Um, but because we are all so busy with our individual journeys of just simply trying to survive, it's very difficult to understand that how in fact that actually working as a community to get people to listen to what it is we desire and we need can actually facilitate the change we desire. Yes, my son says going to other countries, America is especially as a black young man. Absolutely. As a mother of a young black man, I think it's super important if you can to take your children out of this country to get them to experience life elsewhere. I took my son to Ghana, West Africa, in fact, right before the pandemic hit. And it was wonderful because my son was going to these very white adjacent schools where his blackness was being challenged, even though they said they had lots of children of color that actually did
mm,
not have a lot of black kids. And so he was the target of some interesting microaggressions against um, his just black boy joy and ability to be able to do those things. And so I took him to Ghana because I wanted him to know who he was if he had to interact in those spaces. And we all have to interact in those spaces for the rest of our lives.
absolutely.
And when I talk about white adjacent white folks are not my enemy. White people who don't like black people, white people who try to assimilate black people and crush the spirit of young black children are who I'm against. And
Mm,
environments, unfortunately, are not for our kids. I wish that they were, but you know, sometimes issues of patriarchy, race, and economics are ingrained in a group of people due to their own experiences. And unfortunately, I don't believe that our children should be there to reprogram people, their kids. So I took him to Ghana, and I remember taking him to the sea at New Year's, and I said, "Look at all of this. All of this is you. All of this is yours, because my great ancestor is Yasantiwa, and my family is a royal family in Ghana, West Africa, through the Akan tribe." And so I reminded him that he wasn't just an African, but actually that he was a royal. So that
wow.
yeah, so he got his naming ceremony. My father, who's now 90 years old, who was a freedom fighter and politician who gave up his throne for the Akan people to get into politics because he felt like, as a figurehead who's just simply wearing a crown and covered in gold, I can't do very much as a tribesman, but I can do
Mm,
a whole lot in government. And so he gave up being a royal to get into politics and was actually instrumental in creating the very first democracy in Ghana and getting rid of Rawlings, who was the dictator at the time. He lost everything doing it, which is why I'm working on a small documentary about his career, creating the very largest printing company in West Africa, having his own newspaper that ended up becoming a revolutionary paper that helped drive those first democratic elections in Ghana, West Africa. So I wanted my son to touch that land and to know who he was and to get those rites of passage so that when he found himself in situations challenging his divinity as a human, as a young man, he could look at people and be like, I know the truth about myself. And I know I'm not perfect, but I know the difference between lies told about me and truths being said to me. And it's the reason why my son walks with so much pride. And I'll never, ever feel bad about the money I spent to take he and my whole family over to Ghana so that we could all remember who we are. And then when we got off off the plane, months later, here we are, the world closed down. And I was so glad that my son could reach back to that energy whenever he felt weak and alone as an only child, isolated for what, 2.5 years.
Right. That was some time. And how old is Miles?
He's now 12 years old. He's 12 years old, going on 50. He's a sage. No, I'm serious. He really does inspire me with his emotional aptitude at such a young age. I think watching the adults in his world, God bless him, has taught him to look at what people do and not just what they say. And
Mm-hmm.
he's a very good observer of life. And at certain moments when I have not even felt strong enough, he's grabbed me by my shoulders most recently and said, "Hey, look, Mom, it's time for you to do for you. You deserve. You've done everything for everybody. And if you were to stop singing and not being yourself, then you wouldn't be you. And I love you the way you are."
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, like you're not supposed to change. You not making music is not you. And I know we're gonna get into what's going on with my custody situation. But one of the things he said that was very telling, he said, "Well, Mom, while we're not together right now, and until I come home, just throw yourself into it.
Oh,
Throw yourself into it. Become the star that everybody knows, and I know you are." And
mm. Woo, girl.
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful because he was really led to believe that I had just abandoned him. And
Whew.
I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful. Um, I've never not been active in his life. I've always been there. When I got the gig with Lenny Kravitz, I was very blessed. But my co-parent at the time was not willing to allow him to stay with my mother while I went up for. And he asked, he was not helping me with child support or doing anything for our son. Even even put me out of our house with our child right after my 6-week visit into a home I helped us buy. um, and I did a lot of things because I was naive. I let my ex-husband represent me in court on our divorce. I just wanted to be friends so bad. Um,
Mm.
I wanted to leave. I wanted to leave on a good note because I didn't have a father. I had a political father, so he wasn't active. There are 16 of us, which also lets you know that his guilty pleasure was women. um, we range in ages, and I did not get to know my father till I was 14, and our relationship is
Wow.
complicated as a result. So I was very focused on creating an environment where my son did not lose his father, even at the detriment of myself. 4 days after I'd given birth to my son, I was standing at a microphone singing "I Can't Help It" over the original DAT recording by Quincy Jones while nursing, for DJ Spinner. And 4 weeks later, I was on the stage because I wasn't getting any help. People were congratulating me during my entire pregnancy for being so forward and touring pregnant, because women weren't doing that, not independent artists, not signed artists. We were encouraged to hide our pregnancies, to not let anybody know we were pregnant, because immediately upon people discovering, you could lose a lot. I lost a 29 city tour with Bilal Oliver as a result of my own management discovering I was pregnant. And it was very unfortunate because it definitely wasn't Bilal. Bilal's a father himself. He and I recorded while I was pregnant. He was like, "Let's do some things." Uh,
Yeah.
but there were a lot of people, and mainly men, who thought I was fractured because I was carrying a life when Black women pulled plows pregnant and went back, got squeezed babies out in a barn and went back to the field with them on their backs. So I just got in my Volkswagen Beetle. I got on got on the horn, and I booked my own 29 city tour. And
Girl.
drove around this great America in my Volkswagen Beetle as my tour bus until my
Mm.
belly hit the steering wheel so I could pay for all the things my son needed. And this is with an ex-husband who was now a partner in one of the largest Black law firms in this country, um, and who is now part owner of this law firm. Um, so I could tell you what I'm dealing with.
Oh my
Uh,
Lord, I can imagine. I can.
yeah,
Oh my Lord.
yeah, and I'm grateful that I'm here, and I'm so grateful that we had that time during the pandemic to be together, because that's when we really discovered the truth about one another. Because I got to raise my son in real time, homeschool him, and around this time, I said to his dad, we've been talking about him coming home for a long time, and every time I ask, there's a new excuse for why he cannot return to me. He's 8
Mm.
now. Um, when I went out with Lenny, my ex-husband said, I'm never ever going to pay you enough child support to take care of this child ever. I'm not going to do it. So you should just let him stay with me. You're not making any music. I'd gotten a real estate license, and I was working for the top real estate company in the country, Corcoran at the time. So, I left, not left, but I had to leave music to feed my son and I, because the man was giving us gift cards uh,
Oh
and
my.
prorated what he would give me. I should have took him to court, but I really wanted to have. I've always been one of those people that believes that maybe it didn't work out. Maybe y'all aren't in love anymore, and it ended, but we can still be family. I was
Right.
family with my stepbrother. I was family with my stepfather's ex-wife was like my mother. Her name was Zarah. And so, yeah. So YahZarah is also a form of ancestor worship to not only both of my grandmothers, but also to her for giving me um, such a great example of womanhood
Mm.
with my mother about what co-parenting should look like when it just isn't a perfect situation. My stepmother, Zara, was also my babysitter. And this is why my mom and she were not friends. This woman would come and get me. I would stay the night while while my mother and my stepfather would go dancing or have a party, and she would keep me. And she treated me as if I was one of her children until
Wow.
she died when I was 10. I could call her a yeye. She was my mama too. And
Mm.
I imagined if I was the example of Christ, the example of love that I wanted to see, that my ex-husband, who was the son of a pastor, would rise to that same occasion. Unfortunately, it never quite happened. And I stooped to conquer for years because I didn't want my son dragged into a courtroom for an ugly fight. And unfortunately, I was forced to do so after he was taken to Atlanta without my permission. During the pandemic, his father and his wife moved there. And it was almost immediate, kind of like after I said I wanted my son to start transitioning back home. He was doing great in homeschooling. Even the school he was at, where he was dealing with a very uncomfortable racial environment, at a Jerry Farwell school, Trinity School in North Carolina at the time. Even his teachers loved me. We got along very well for his sake, and his grades raised. And I was like, oh, I can do this. I let people tell me, because I was a single mother who had to continue to be on the road and perform, that I couldn't do the things that men do, like raise my child. Like I was deficient because I didn't have a man in place as a buffer of protection or respect, a
Mm.
real family setting.
Right.
And
Right.
I wanted my son to have that. And my ex-husband had gotten married to a woman I still believe is beautiful. Um, I'm not sure if she feels that way about me, but I always have worked to be the example of love I seek to see. And so has she. And I appreciate that. Our relationship is complicated, and I won't get into the reasons why, but you can read into why.
I
Uh,
understand.
and
Yeah.
But I forgive that, and I immediately came to love her as part of my family circle. After I got the counseling I needed to get there, and I love her dearly, even despite everyone's part in what is happening now.
Wow. That's big of you. I'll put it like that. From
Jesus.
girl coming from a woman who is also divorced, and my ex-husband has gotten married as well. Our relationship is also very complicated, and for you to say that, for you to I put it like this: I respect her, and I respect her position. I respect who she is. She, does well for my kids, and I appreciate that and I respect that. That other part, though, I'm
But you
not
said you love her, girl. I
there
love.
yet.
I'm gonna tell you why. Due to, and I don't even think she knows the whole story. I actually don't believe it. And to protect my ex-husband's name and career and all the things I really wanted to see for him happen, despite our breakup, I never went public ever with my experience with him during my pregnancy, with my experience with him as a co-parent before his marriage. I just didn't want to, like, I see the greatness in my ex-husband to do really amazing things for Black folk. And, it's an interesting conversation about W.E.B. Du Bois's best and brightest. And
Mm,
finest 10%. And I talk about the 10% of Black folk, the 10% of Black folk who have been allowed to amass wealth and to create certain things for themselves. They are considered our best and our brightest, and those to be protected no matter what they do. And we've seen it throughout history. All of our greatest figures have stories behind them that if people said, I have to allow this story to be bigger than the man we're protecting, we might not love them so much. And I could get into names and you'd be like, oh, but
imagine.
right. But I really did not want to go here. Even me being here talking about this is not what I desired. But it's necessary. And because I never gave my child up, I never gave my son up, I never gave up my custodial rights to my child. But someone who has more money and more power was able to walk in and just abuse my rights as a human and as a mother. And before it ever happened in court, I was already living off the fear of what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that because honestly, I want to, and not to cut you off, I can understand that a lot of times us as mothers, because we're so, we're such nurturers, that's where our first mindset is, okay, make sure the kids are okay, make sure that they're not involved in how ugly things can get, do what's best for them despite how this makes me feel, understanding like me, being transparent. They are my children are, I only have them like, oh, I only have them on weekends.
Mhm.
And that is mainly because their father was able to give them in a better, he's more stable in the court size. I'll put it like that.
Right.
More stable.
Right.
So I understand. Trust when I saw you discussing this situation, I'm like, I understand. Oh my goodness.
Because no one
So
can say I'm not a good mother. No one.
right, right. And that's not something that can be said on either side. It's not that. It's just that what the court sees as more as stability is what they look at. They don't necessarily look at the
But they may not look. They may not, in fact, look. Like in my case, where I walked into two courtrooms with motions and physical proof and emails and letters and stayed up even 4 days to write a motion, worked with paralegals, and to walk into a courtroom and the judge pretends that she doesn't see my motion and is
hmm,
speaking as if she's old friends with my ex-husband and their lawyer and his wife. And I didn't know I could bring anybody into the courtroom. I was representing myself at the time pro se. And pro se, for those of you that do not know what that is, you represent yourself. That's called pro se. And legally, you're supposed to be able to do that. However, when you do, the court system and the law can use what you don't know about the law against you. So when I walked into the courtroom after being accused of kidnapping my son, which is what happened, um, he was having some real issues and ideations about his life and maybe not living it. I'm going to say that, and that had been happening since he was taken from my care after the pandemic. He wanted to stay. Um, I was afraid because I didn't have resources to fight. And so I said, well, as long as he's okay when he gets there, as long as his life is intact and he's happy and his joy is not compromised or his education, I won't rock the boat. It's Atlanta. It's the
hmm,
South. I'm in Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn. I love the fact that he can hold on to his blackness here in a specific way that he may not be able to do other places.
Right.
But he actually could have done more for him as a single mother than his father ever could uh, in Atlanta for him as a married person. But I was constantly told that I was unable, not because I wasn't able, but because I didn't have a man or I wasn't married at the time. And this wasn't just my ex-husband. This is people who I love, who are around me, who believe that a woman is incapable simply because there's not a man as a buffer. When I raised my son for nearly 3 years with no help, just occasional drop-ins from his father every couple of months, until he called me one day and said, I'm getting married. I need somebody to help me with this child, and I got to buy a house. Um, Hand held high. This is the truth. My right hand. Um, and even having to talk about these things now because things have come to a boiling point, with my son's education, with his mental stability. When I got into that courtroom and the judge started yelling at me, and I couldn't get a word in edgewise. And this is only after they realized I was actually there because they didn't think I was going to show up. I filed for child support. I filed for child custody and child support the moment I got my son back home to Washington, D.C., to his other home. His father and I had been splitting um, custodial custody in a way, in the only way we can if I don't live in Atlanta. So, he would stay with me for holidays and Thanksgiving. Sometimes he would even do distance learning at my home for weeks at a time. So he was never always in Atlanta or even always in Durham. In Durham, when he was there, I had friends I could stay with. I had people who were part of our village who were acutely aware of the situation and were supportive of me. I could be the mother that showed up at class and read to the kids, who was actively involved as much as I could be in, school activities and PTA. And I was there because I only had to drive 4 hours down to see my son. And all the money I could have used for my career, I was using to pay for Airbnbs so I could wake up every day with him and cook him breakfast and dinner and lunch. And he could fall asleep in his own bed wherever we were. And so I was able to be active, and his grades were wonderful. His teachers loved me because I was the parent that could fly in at a moment's notice. Sometimes I would finish a tour and fly right into Durham, North Carolina to be with my son. Shouts out to Omi Sade Bernie, who is the founder of Black Girls Guide to Menopause, for being one of my son's yayas over at QEI Institute in Durham, North Carolina. They were very nurturing to my son, one of the top Black schools in Durham, North Carolina. I highly recommend it to anybody trying to raise their children in a great and educational environment with healthy Black children.
Beautiful.
But it was when he was uprooted from that and put into the Trinity School that he started to have some issues with what happens when a child of privilege enters a white space and they aren't absorbed into the system of white adjacency, where they believe that their Black pride can still coexist with others in a cultural environment. They can actually be targeted. In his case, they thought he was lying when he said his mother sung background for Madonna and was, a star. And he was being accused of lying and being targeted and going through all these things. And, like any 8 or 9 year old, he also had problems with lying, but things were going up here for this
Right.
poor kid, So they take him to Atlanta, Georgia, and they put him in a school called Paideia, that is actively known for being they call themselves progressive, but it's old white money, and they have an issue for being a little racially tone deaf. It's true. Um, my son would call a kid a banana and get sent home for racial slur, while kids called him nigger daily and would be able to maintain their time there. I,
Wow.
I witnessed moments of my son being targeted by older white teachers, and younger white males. And thank God for the few Black folks who were there who did protect the integrity of his education. But I told his father then, I said, look, you didn't ask me my opinion when you decided to put him in these schools. You made a decision to make a move without me, and really without my permission. I can't fight you because I can't fight you,
Right.
but
Right.
you better make sure that this boy's mental stability and his health are intact. Or I
Right.
promise you, God is my witness. If I come down here and my kid is not okay, because I know my child. When I became pregnant with him, I knew he was a child that probably didn't need to be in an institutionalized school system because he was a child of privilege. unless it was an environment with other Black children who come from all walks of life, including a privileged background, so that he could be someplace where he would not be targeted for being somebody like himself.
And that's hard to find. It's so
Oh,
hard
yeah,
to find.
because the more money you make, the more white adjacent things end up having to become for lots of different reasons. I was a child who went to DC public schools. My mother was a school teacher. Again, my background. So I lived in Germany for several years. I would go to school and I had teachers who would tell my mother, she thinks she's better than the other kids, and weaponize other children to beat me, throw me down steps, set my locker on fire. I even had a child knock me down, pull his pants down, and simulate taking a defecation on my head in the 7th grade. So I recognize what the weaponization, and I was in a Black school, the weaponization of privilege can do in both Black environments and in white environments. So I'm not here to say that the white adjacent environment is the answer, the Black adjacent environment is the answer. I'm saying stable mid-range environments for our children are important. And unfortunately, because a lot of people don't know that kids like my kid exist in the world, they become targets for Black people who don't like people with privilege and white people who don't like people with privilege.
Goodness
It becomes
gracious.
a thing. Right. And so my boy I just kept feeling him shrink. And we were working on this report for Sojourner Truth. We were still at that school. And there was a partner, and I was explaining to him her story and saying that Sojourner Truth wrote Ain't I a Woman because she said, here it is, y'all take off your coat so a white woman can walk over a puddle, but then you push me into the puddle, but ain't I a woman?
Right, right.
Ain't right. That's a whole other conversation.
Oh, girl.
And also, I will also try to interweave in how that also, this entire situation and process has made me feel very alone as a Black woman, without even the resource of other Black women as a safe space to go to, because the women in the courtroom with me are Black women. My lawyer was a Black woman. The judge is a Black woman. The chief justice of Child Family Court. So there is no reporting her. There is no talking about her. It's like walking into a store and saying, can I talk to the manager after being treated foully? And the person who treated you foully says, well, I am the manager. I own the store.
Right,
Now, what you,
right.
So, long story short, my son was taken out of that school and put into a charter school. There was a good school that my son is a perfect match for. But his father said to him, he's made him feel like as if it's his fault that he wasn't accepted in those environments and that he's not going to pay for him to go to private school. I've been told that if I want to pay for it, I can. I'm also told that when the boy comes to stay with me during the summers, his father will not help me with summer camp. His father will not do anything but maybe send him on a plane. Um, he is the major breadwinner, partner and now part owner of one of the largest Black law firms in this country. His wife is a dean of religion at Harvard. Um, I don't want child support. I just want you to bring the boy home. If the money is such a big issue, just let me have my son so he can be in an environment with a person who has time to show up for him. And I say this because, I had to keep my promise, because 2 years later, my boy was wanting to unalive himself and had been attacked
Oh, my goodness.
twice by the same child who only received a tap on the wrist. Last year, the child did something to him, got a tap on the wrist. First day of school, I take my son to school because I said I want to see the environment. And this is also after my summer was interrupted by a lie, me being told that my son was going to be traveling in a basketball team, and he wasn't. He wasn't. My boy calls me and said, the team is horrible and they're not going anywhere. And I don't know why I'm not with you for the summer. But the previous summer, I said to his father, these camps are $3,000 and $4,000. I can't, on my salary as an independent artist, pay for these things. I didn't ask for a golden parachute when I got divorced. I could have taken everything. I could have dragged his name. I could have sued everybody for alienation of affection. Those in the South know exactly what I mean by that. I didn't. I really wanted to be friends with him. I really wanted to co-parent. I wanted us to be laughing and telling jokes with his wife and whomever I chose as a partner. It did not happen. I don't have no problem with that, but let's just not crack the egg. But we have cracked the egg. And as his mother, who nearly died on the delivery table giving birth to him, and I sung at the funeral of a 12-year-old boy before while watching a child clutch a controller in a casket at the age of 12 and having to sing at that child's funeral. And also sing at the funeral of a 14-year-old girl. I know too well what we believe as children of baby boomers is par for the course is not par for the course for children. Period. Trauma should not be the qualifier for growth for Black children, for anyone's children, and
Anybody.
definitely not my son. And so I decided, pardon me, I'm trying to pull myself together. So, he called me up from school at the school of remain nameless, and he's in the bathroom holding a gold chain that he had earned the money to buy himself, and that my bonus mom had matched the funds with so he could get. So meaning he had worked hard, he had put the blood and sweat in. And the year previous, the same child ripped it off of his neck and took it from him. Child was still, got a small in-house suspension. His father, I think, took them out for movies because that maybe elevated his ego to think he was going down and helping somebody, but he didn't help our son. The next year, first day of school, the boy pushes him, roughs him up, and takes the same chain, rips it off of his neck, rips it into pieces, and Miles is able to get one piece back. He calls me from the bathroom of this school on FaceTime with tears in his eyes holding his chain. Now, I didn't buy this chain. His stepmama did with him. But I'm thinking to myself, this is what I said I didn't want for our child. His father thinks that makes a man out of people. But I know people who have gone to school and never known what it was like to ever be assaulted, to simply be able to exist in their childhood joy and get their education. And what is the use of affluence? What is the use of making millions of dollars and being in privilege and being a member of the Boule and being a member of the Lynx and being a member of all these things if you don't change the trajectory of generations to come?
Thank you. Oh my
What is the point? And so upon getting this call and my son saying a teacher saw everything and didn't do anything to the kid, he's laughing and walking around the hallway telling people how he did me again. And I jumped in the car because I was still in Atlanta. It just so happened that I didn't get in my car that day. Something told me in my spirit, stay in that city. So I stayed an extra day, and I was supposed to take him to get an immunization for school after class that day anyway. So I just showed up immediately. I jumped in the car and I drove over there and I said, "Hi, I'm Miss Williams-Bristol, and my son just called me from your bathroom saying a teacher saw him be assaulted and did nothing." Oh, because first I was told I needed an appointment. I said, "I don't need an appointment."
Oh no.
And he just called me from your bathroom. And so my mom was there. We just so happened we were there because he said, "I really want you to take me to my first day of school." I invited his father. I invited his mother, his stepmother, who I think of as his mother as well. They refused to come and walk him through the door for his first day of 7th grade. They could have been there for his meet and greet. They could have come. I invited them, just like I've invited them for Christmas holidays or joint family functions, or to allow us to co-host things when they wanted to interrupt my summers with our son. Um, I've always played the team player, but when that happened and I got there and the principal was not even aware of my son's attack and my son's grades were slipping and have been slipping ever since he came to Atlanta, Georgia, and my ex-husband, who will not send me his grades when asked, who doesn't tell me when child and family teacher meetings are so I can be there on a Zoom, basically keeping me in the dark about what's going on with my son's education and mental stability. I had him in counseling as soon as he got to Atlanta because of what he was talking about when he left. His father pulled him out of counseling. So when I took my son from that school that day and took him to the doctor, and he filled out the questionnaire because now in Atlanta you have a questionnaire that the children can fill out on their own. And on it he checked where he said, "Sometimes I think of hurting myself." It took me 5 days to bring that child into the world. 3 of them I spent praying that I would not die because I carried him pretty much alone until 3 months before his birth, when his father finally signed in and stopped calling him it. Oh, maybe it might not be coming. And still, I didn't drag him for filth or keep him from his child. I understood that he was a hurt person going through a thing. Here it is. He wanted to be divorced from me. And on the way out, we did what grown people be doing. And we got pregnant. I got pregnant at the height of my career in the middle of the ocean on all the birth control made to man with my child while preparing to be nominated for a Grammy in 6 categories. I
Congratulations
didn't
for that.
thank praise the Lord. I didn't ask to get pregnant, but I thank God that I did because I had um I also want to speak to women out there who have become an amalgamation in a relationship that so much so that they've lost who they are and start forgetting what they've created and who they are. I did that. I just wanted for it to work so badly. Jeremiah Wright married us in this all white wedding, but never called me when I was scream crying in the back pew of a church holding my baby. Um, the churches who my ex-husband represented as counsel would see me on a given Sunday and be more concerned about the fact that I was nursing my child in a back pew than that I had been abandoned with a child shortly after giving birth. Um, None of these things, though, kept me from showing up, from smiling at games, from sitting beside he and his wife, for really, really trying to become family with them for our son. And some people would say that's not their job. They don't have to do that. And I agree. But when you have an agreeable ex-wife
Hmm.
who's saying, let's spend Christmas together. And at this time, I was living in a, 4-story, 6,000 square foot home with my then partner. And we would invite them every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every holiday. Let's have joint holidays with this child so we can see what family unit looks like.
What a family unit is supposed to look like.
Because we don't have to be together. My grandfather's ex-wife and her husband took care of my grandfather till he passed away in the house that they owned and gave him. I'm used to seeing Black people do like what collective responsibility really means. And we have a lot of people out here with degrees representing some of the best and the brightest of us who do not love Black people and do
Mm.
not see the same as community. And I'm not saying that that's them. I'm not here to judge that. But I will say that once I realized that I was in a losing battle for peace, and then this happened to my son, the next day I took him to school. Actually, I'm sorry, that night I took him home to his father. I took him to the movies with a friend to just kind of get that energy out of him. But I was already seething because during the summer when my son stayed with me, his father was when my son decided to stay with me. He came to visit for a few weeks. He told me what was going on, and I was like, this is ridiculous. My ex even had the audacity to ask me to ask Erica Badu for tickets so that he could pay Miles to see her. And I ended up getting tickets from Badu, who I hadn't seen in years, bless her heart, so that Miles and I could go to Madison Square Garden. I wanted to keep him for the day afterwards instead of just throwing him on a plane. His father said, well, I already paid $600 for camp. And if you want to pay me the price of the camp for the week, he can stay. And of course, I said some choice things that I cannot say on your station.
I
Well,
bet.
here's what I know about this summer. I know that he's not really touring with a team. I know that he is getting private lessons instead. When I live in Washington, D.C., where I live across the street from the top AAU coach, he could have been touring all summer if you're so concerned about that. The coach's daughter is now on the championship team. I live in a city where 5 championship AAU teams are. You lied, and I'm going to go ahead and keep him till the first day of school, and I'll holler at you. Okay? I see you when I see you at school. So I drive down there. I do my part because I'm not here to rock the boat. But as I have found my own voice, I'm not here to get run over either.
That's it.
Especially watch my child be
That's
in
it.
he is where all the hard work I put in the early years of his life to make him Black proud and love to learn something new, love math, love reading, love science, read 77 books in pre-K
Come
alone by
on.
himself. Listen, everything he is was the foundation I gave him before his father inherited him through refusing to be of any assistance to me. That's the reason he got them. Because I said, okay, I could use these 2 years because you're not going to give me any money. And you say you can't, even though you sold both of our houses at cost so that I would have nothing and extorted me for my publishing in order to get any amount of money so I could move out of North Carolina with our child. I'm going to let you because a child should have their father. And so here we are 9 years later, and my boy is better off roughing it with me as an independent artist in Washington, D.C., than Having the best of everything in Atlanta, Georgia, he is losing the most important thing: the desire to know that he is safe and heard. He says to me constantly, I just don't feel like I'm heard or anyone's listening to me about the things that are happening to me in school. Mommy, I'm working hard, but I know most of the kids at my school who look like me aren't even making eights on the arbitrary grading system of 1 to 8. At any rate, let me get back to the part where I had to take him home. um, I get to his father that night and I tell him what happened because I'd handled it. And I said, he was attacked at school by the same kid you told me about last year that you said you had under control. I'd like to be able to put my son to bed before he goes to sleep tonight. And so I take my boy upstairs because he's acting ambivalent. He didn't even hug Miles when he walked through the door. And this is after not seeing him all summer. He didn't hug his son. He didn't say, I miss you. I love you. How are you doing? And this is after being indifferent to him ever since from the moment he decided to stay with me for the remainder of the summer. And Miles, he just seems like he's so angry at me. I don't want to call him mom, and then he said to him, well, you need to finish what you started. You need to come home. I'm his mother. I didn't see my son till July. He only gets 2 months off for school. I was only supposed to have 2 weeks with him, which is nothing we agreed upon. We ain't never been to court. I didn't take him to court. We never had a custody agreement. So after seeing him say he could possibly hurt himself, talking to him throughout the summer time that I had him, seeing what happened to him at that school, and his father's indifference when I returned him home, and my son was washing his hands vigorously, almost bleeding them to try to chop them down. He said, my father, if he sees that my nails are unkept or dirty, he's going to be furious with me. And I already don't know if he still loves me after I stayed home with you all summer. And I put him to bed. And, I've never been able to even sleep on the floor next to my son when I come to visit him in Atlanta. So it me of about $2,000 to $3,000 every time I come down there because they live in an affluent neighborhood. And I want to be able to wake my son up every day and take him to school and feed him his breakfast, lunch, and dinner like a mother does, like I've been doing since he was born. And so it was very difficult for me to be coming back and forth there. There was no mercy for that whatsoever. Thank God, a dear friend of mine, Jamila Pico, and her husband, Fahamu, allowed me to stay the last couple of visits because I was going through my savings to see my own child while trying to put out a record and trying to tour. So many of my fans, if you're wondering why I haven't been here, it's just I've just had to prioritize. And this is all spending the last 10 years bleeding from fibroids and then getting long COVID and having to get
girl.
So part of the reason I'm just finally fighting is because I actually am in great enough health to do so, but I was never in bad enough health that I could not raise my child. My mother bled for an entire decade and taught DC public schools and raised me.
Kudos to mamas, honey.
And so I'm not here for this white noise telling us as mothers that all of a sudden we are inept and unable because there's no man as a buffer or someone taking care of us. I know many women in relationships and they would rather be by themselves than to have this breath and britches sitting by them, not even helping them with their kids. So, and standing in the way of all the subsidies and assistance they could get for their children. So, it's weird to me if you think I'm trying to come at your money when I say, hey, if
keep
it, just give me my baby. And you still holding on while he's not really improving. I'm still asking right now to this day for my son's progress reports and report cards, and his father still hasn't done it. I'm still asking for my son, even though the judge made a court order for my son to go back to counseling. She didn't say for how long and how many days a month, so he only puts him in there for 1 day a month. My son is still coming to me telling me he is not happy and needs assistance and tools because he understands what therapy does. And I'm not putting him in therapy because I think he's cracked. I'm putting him in there because so he doesn't become cracked. I'm putting him in there so he can be a man who lives to survive his parents because the adults in his life are not deciding to do the right thing. So if he's got to be there and he's got to navigate this whole court thing, and he and I now, on top of being a child of divorce, where only one parent has been getting their way since he was born. And I just had it. I went down the stairs. I told his father what our son said to me. And he said, well, he'll get over it.
Oh my God. That right there there's something going on with him. there's something going on with
There's
him.
unhealed issues, but it's his business, and I won't get into it. But what I will say is that a similar situation happened with him and his brother, and his father, who was a minister, moved down south. And this is the 80s, mind you, when there was only two highways going down south and going up north. And his mother was a nurse. And I can't really imagine, after gaining sobriety and getting her life together, that she could probably afford to go up and down the highways and byways to get to him and his brother. I'm not just because, he who's allowed to make history is the one that gets to tell the story. I don't know her story.
Right.
But at being a woman, knowing what I'm experiencing with 4 lanes and affordable planes and expensive Airbnbs, over the course of 9 years, I can only imagine what it might have been like for her and what the narrative could have been while they bounced around the South, as children. So I gave grace for it. I have no more, because in as much as I was able to use the court system to at least get my son back into counseling, and as much as I was able to fight so they pay more attention to his emotions and care a bit more, there's still, it's not really an improvement on the formula that I had planned for his life, which included his father and his stepmother as an active role if they had just been willing to work with me. What makes me unworthy? My bank account? Well, that could easily be changed by my ex-husband paying child support. However, that night I went home and I prayed and I called all the mothers I know. All the mothers that I know. And I said, what should I do? My son is now having ideations that are concerning to me. It's not the first time he's mentioned this. He's saying that being on Roblox is the only place he can find friends and the only place he feels like he's heard or has company. For those of you people who don't know what Roblox is, it is a video game that a lot of children became addicted to during the pandemic, specifically only children who did not have outlets like siblings or pods, which we did not have because people were afraid to die. So with nobody letting your kid come play with their kid because kids are petri dishes. God bless their little nasty selves. Digging in their nose and their butts and their arms. Nobody was gonna let your kid. So I would see him on Roblox sitting in a room with his legs crossed with his homeboy who'd be in North Carolina while he was in Baltimore, and they would just sit there. So I understood what was going on in my child's head intimately as an only child. My ex-husband is a member of 5. He doesn't really understand what's going on in the head of this only child. And it's a lot. His emotions, his emotional aptitude is a lot for his pop. They're both busy people committed to the work of our people, which I admire and am proud of. I'm super proud of his stepmother. Like, the irony is, if it had been more encouraged, I probably would be friends with her. I think she's an amazing woman. And the way she loves on my child. None of that would change if he was at my house. My guest bedroom was available to my ex-husband the entire time while Miles was in my care, even when he would prorate my child support and made me lose my nanny. My family still allowed him to sleep under their roof, to see my son. I would allow him to sleep under my roof in my apartment in Brooklyn, to see his child, to make sure it wasn't difficult for him to continue to have a relationship. None of that has been paid forward. And even then, I didn't argue or fight until my child came home and said, I don't feel like I'm being heard. I'm not sure I want to be here. I'm getting attacked at school. Nobody's listening to me. I'm kind of feeling like I'm kind of seeing the parallels to my own childhood as a child of privilege to my sons now. And where I stopped loving education, where I stopped loving myself, where I stopped wanting to learn, and it was music that saved me from being a casualty. The boy can sing. His father tells him his strong suit is not music. He was making music and beats that my friends wanted to buy when he was 8. No longer makes music. I said he could do all the things. You want him to play sports? He can play sports. Let him take up an instrument. It will make him more responsible. Help him be better in math. That will help him understand the art of study. Anything that has to do with me he's given a complex for. And I kind of let that ride as long as he was happy. But he wasn't. So the next day, Miles tells me the boy is still here at school after doing what he did to me. I was told by the school that they could not make the mother replace my son's property. They could only strongly suggest, and that the boy would be there under in-house suspension. The boy was then getting other children to weaponize themselves against Miles, as an extension of his hand from from in-house suspension, when he'd already attacked Miles last year. So he should have been at home. Shouldn't have been nowhere near my kid or anyone else for that matter, and was getting away with consistently doing toxic things to other children, not just my own son. So
I was going to ask about that. Was it just him as a target, or was he doing this to other kids?
Other kids, and just getting away with it. And there's a certain time in the community where we enable people by not allowing them to have some consequences too. Period. I'm gonna leave it at that. Especially in the school system, there is a way to. My mother was educated for 26 years in DCPS. Her children, she had a waiting list for kids, and all of her children have gone on to be successful. And there is a way to do conflict resolution and still have checks, balances, and consequences that are effective in a social justice school system. I know they exist. I've seen them. I've been part of think tanks. I know what the heck is going on. So, with that being said, I called all the moms I knew, and they were like, get your kid out of there. What, you don't have a custody agreement anyway? Take your son home. DC Public Schools doesn't start until the 1st of September, the 3rd of September. You can enroll him in school there. Get that together. Put him in school. Found an incredible school for him. Just a 6-minute walk from my house in the neighborhood I grew up in. Was about to enroll him in AAU sports with a championship coach. It was about to go up because I said,
enough.
Peace is, I've come in peace for too long. And I was still in Atlanta. I picked my son up from school and I drove home. I drove home. I did. I drove home with my child because I had no custody agreement. No custodial rights to my son. I even have emails from my ex-husband saying he didn't have custodial rights to our son. None of these have ever been seen by the judge because she refused to look at them. As soon as I got to DC that morning, I got up. I was at the judge's office in the morning, filing for child custody, filing for child support. He was served on a Monday. He, in 24 hours in Atlanta, Georgia, where courts are backed up in child support court and child custody, got an emergency court hearing in 24 hours, not with just any judge, but with the chief justice of child support court, who just so happened to be adjunct faculty at the same college that his wife was teaching at the time. I come in there, I'm ambushed. They didn't even know I was there. I get yelled at. My motions are not heard. Then after the clerk says, oh no, judge, her motion's right here. She's very upset with the clerk for telling her that. Refuses. Well, I don't care what the motions. I don't have to. And you're gonna answer me the way I want you to answer me in my court. I'm just sitting there like.
Can we give names? Because I'm mad now. I'm mad. I'm serious. Like,
with you, I'm scared.
This is such an injustice. Like, I'm just sitting here listening to what you're saying, and you know what? I'm not gonna do that.
But you can look up all the information I'm giving you is public record. If you look up the Chief Justice of Child Support Court, who is a Black woman who has plainly listed the church she goes to and all these things that I thought would actually make her an ally. But because she didn't know me, and because it is very clear that I am presented as a wayward mother, which is not the truth, and she had other people who she knew very well in there who had the credentials of W.E.B. Du Bois's best and brightest. It stopped being about my son and I, and my son's desire for peace in his life, and it started to be a conversation about it was about W.E.B. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey, the Garveyists, people like you and me who believe in the community and community structured assistance to one another, and then the people who look at folks who don't go through the system to become whatever they're going to become as irresponsible or whatever, that take face value. They love artists, but they judge us. I just never felt so unsafe. Someplace I had just knew when I handed her that paperwork and she saw the dialogue that I'd had between my ex-husband and I, the brain dump I did of my pregnancy, and all of these things, proration of child support, lying about assets, all these things that she would, maybe I wouldn't get everything I want, but I wouldn't have a situation where my son is now in the full custody of his father, where I only get to see my son one Saturday a month in Atlanta, Georgia. And what's worse is I had to go online and raise all this money just to get an attorney who seemed like she was in bed with them. I would ask for things to be done, motions to be sent. My ex-husband tried to have me served in front of my son. A man who I did not know chased me all over my ex-husband's neighborhood trying to serve me, saying the wrong name. So I was able to just leave. And when I told my attorney to ask for the Ring video documentation from my husband, no one subpoenaed a video. They only got the server's testimony, which was a lie. He went on Wikipedia and looked up what he thought were my measurements. Put me at 5'5", 150 pounds.
Where?
I've never been over 125. I was over 125 pounds pregnant. I just laughed, and I just knew this would be the key to getting my case thrown out. My lawyer says to me, well, you'll have to start it all over again. I don't think we should do that. So I let that ride. And so she said all these things she was going to do. And I would be emailing saying, hey, that's great, but can we work on this temporary custody order that's going on here? That my ex-husband was able to get a trial on he got an emergency order on the Tuesday after I sent my service. By that Thursday, I was in court with that judge. Well, there are people still waiting to see that judge in court in Atlanta right now as we speak. And then the next hearing I was in, I walk in and my lawyer and the judge are talking about what they're going to wear to Howard's homecoming. This is my son's life. And you're talking about what y'all gonna wear at the Howard homecoming and what parties y'all gonna go to, while the white attorney of my ex-husband's just sitting back cracking up and laughing. Just laughing. Because he knows. He already knows I'm done. And I'm not just done by the system, but for people who look just like me. I was in a parallel universe. I couldn't believe it, while my lawyer sat there and shuffled papers as if I hadn't given her the information that I'd already given her 2 weeks prior for my case. I didn't let her go for them because I'd given her all the money as a retainer that I had raised. So here, I got to give her this money. So when I started asking questions and becoming a nuisance and not getting any real movement, I got an advocate. The moment I got that advocate, I'd been asking, hey, do I have anything invoiced? Oh, no, we haven't invoiced anything for you yet. There's nothing billed. The moment I got an advocate and said, hey, I got an advocate because I feel like this can help us communicate a little better. I've been trying to get in touch with you all to get this, just the temporary custody situation under wraps, because when we did that last hearing, that was what we were supposed to do. And you said, let's put a finger in that when my son is suffering and he's not used to not seeing his mother. What do we do? So I end up actually having to text my ex-husband and saying, hey, the boy is really going through it. Why don't you just let him come for a weekend or so? He needs a break from you, and he could use it. Don't spite me. Love on him. And that was the way I was able to get my son home for a weekend. It's the same way I was able to get my son for Christmas, even though I had people who I was paying to simply have those conversations. His lawyer would drag.
Okay, you're back.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah, I think you went out for a sec.
Okay, am I here?
Yes,
Do you
you're
still
here.
have sound?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay, and I can't hear you at all.
You can't hear me at all?
No. Let me see here.
So this is what we'll do.
I can't hear nothing.
Go
I may
out,
have to go out and come back in. Yeah.
Go out and come back in. While we do
Okay.
that, we're gonna go to a brief commercial. Guys, this is what, while she's coming back in, we're going to wrap this up in a little bit, but this is I'm sure this is just as frustrating to you guys as it is to me and as it is to her. So if there is anybody who knows a lawyer, a custody lawyer that can assist her, please make sure that we reach out to her. Let me get her information here. We're going to go to commercial in a minute. I want you guys to do what you can. Drop something in her Cash App. Let's get her baby, because as you can see, this is not how this is supposed to be. I do not like to hear things like this. I don't. She's back. We're going to go to commercial and then we'll be right back.
When music and football team up, it kicks off the ultimate inspiration celebration.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
The 25th anniversary of Super Bowl Soulful Celebration, formerly Super Bowl Gospel Celebration, is coming to Las Vegas in February 2024 and will be bigger than ever. The rebranded Super Bowl Soulful Celebration remains the highest Nielsen-rated inspirational show on all broadcast or cable television. And now your favorite musical event is now a year-round content brand.
Super Bowl Soulful Celebration.
Suit up and prepare to join the Super Bowl Soulful Celebration team. One of the most watched sports and music televised specials is now headed to become one of the biggest inspirational entertainment brands. Game on.
This is the golden mic that everybody loves.
Let's go. Sorry.
I love you, Jesus. I worship and adore you.
Ready and I'm ready. Yeah.
Come over here.
I'm here. You.
Everybody went out mic.
Hey.
All righty. We are back. Thank you all. So I'm going to ask you this one thing. Like, what, in order to, because my desire, and like I told you earlier, my desire is that we can get you what you need and who you need to make this right. In a nutshell, to make this right, because we didn't even get a chance to get to our questions, and I'm fine with that.
I'm so sorry.
No. This is because pretty much everything that you mentioned is what I was going to ask. You know what I mean? One thing that I'm first of all, thank you for, number one, your fight. And I know that just your son sees it. Miles, he sees it. Especially the way that you were talking about him and how intelligent how he is and how intuitive he is. He sees it. He sees it. And I one of the things that I love is I want solutions. So in addition to, like, I'm going to have to bring up all of these comments that people are like, the people are mad, girl. The people are angry with you, as you should, as we should, because number one, and this is part of what we were talking about as far as the justice system. If it's not about the money, in this country specifically, if it's not about money, if you don't have it,
it ain't about the money. As T.I. says, you ain't getting nowhere. And I didn't know. I just didn't know. I really thought, and while I was sitting there in the courtroom now, on Zoom, because they have done all of the hearings to convenience my ex-husband via Zoom. No one has actually looked me in my face live and in person, not even my own lawyer, because I was willing to come down there. And at first I want to say it is my prayer that when this is all over, that one day my ex-husband and I are sitting at my son's graduation laughing about how I had to drag his behind to task and how we all got through it. I really, really want that. I want to be sitting beside he and his wife and laughing about the time we all misunderstood one another and how we got on the same page for our collective son. Like, that's who this is about. Like, if I was bitter, I could have got their behinds 9 years ago and be living Everybody told me, sue this man, take everything, take it all, take the house, take the car, tell everybody what has happened to you, drag his career. And I didn't want to do that. You know, I have a complicated father. I have a complicated father. There are 16 of us, okay? And I just said, I know this brother's story. I know his man's story. I know his child's story. I know there's a little boy in there that is punishing me for stuff that does not belong to me. And if I can be the example, then we won't have to go here. But now we have to. And, you know, when I got that advocate, God bless her heart, Deborah Nixon, she has an incredible, Deborah Nixon out of Houston, Texas. She has an incredible charity who assists women, battered women, and also women in court cases like my own. I've talked to women who have spent as much as $70,000 in Atlanta, Georgia, to get their children back and spent years in court. I've read testimonies and accounts of women who were battered, one woman whose husband rolled over her arm as she tried to escape with a newborn. He had a lot of money and he got custody of the children. Drinker with a history of abusing not only her, but those children physically, and he got the kids because he had the money. You said Atlanta has a better child support system than NYC? Oh no, girl. I beg to differ. All my girlfriends in NYC, they got their kids. I don't have my kid. I don't even care about the money anymore. I keep your money. Just let me have our boy while he can still salvage his self-esteem, become a child that still enjoys learning, and regroup his respect for you after watching what you do. And the beautiful thing about my child is he said, I've talked to my friends who have parents who are going through this, and I know it doesn't have anything to do with me. And when I speak to him, I say, this doesn't. Your parents, your daddy and I are just very passionate about you, and so is your bonus mom. Your baba, we all just love you. And so we got to get past this part so that you can have the life you desire, and all the other grown-up stuff that doesn't have to do with you can be out the room. Out the room. He should have been home with me. He should have been home. Should have been home.
But I was scared. He needs to be where he's safe. He's even said it himself. Where he's feeling safe, where he feels loved, where he feels supported.
I wouldn't be pushing it if he said, Mom, I just want to stay there. I love my life. I didn't. I didn't want to uproot him. I wanted him to have the consistency. Even I thought I was broken. I was like, wow, he's got this amazing wife. They've got all these amazing things. Boule, the links. This is wonderful for our boy. But he's not emotionally safe. His education is not putting him in a position. He said, Mom, at least with the racist people, I was learning how to become somebody's boss. At the school I'm at now, I'd be lucky if I work for someone. These are the words of my 12-year-old son. If he was happy and I was in an agreeable co-parenting situation, everything didn't have to go someone's way. And then when he was with me, you want to make him as uncomfortable as possible because you want him to be connected to your money. Don't you want him to love you too? There are camps. There are things that could benefit my son that he is not getting. Most importantly, a balanced environment with people who love him and will teach him and where he can be himself. The amount of pressure that my boy is in and under to be perfect right now is dangerous for not only his being, but his life.
Right.
And I'm not trying to keep his father from him. I don't hate my ex-husband. If I hadn't have loved him, I would not have married him. I want him to have a good life, an incredible marriage, and a beautiful career, just not at the detriment of my son and I. He cannot play this narrative of trauma bonding over what he did not receive with our son. He cannot place any other valid reason for our boy not being in my care other than I don't make as much money as him. And his unwillingness to make sure that my son's life, our collective son's life, is good not only at his house, but also at mine. Yes. When I tell you, I could have taken everything and I just wanted him to start fresh out of love for his story. I mean that. I only wish that it would have been collectively the same for both of us, for our child. And I'm willing to fight with my very last, not even fight, pardon me. I am willing to work with my very last breath to make sure that my son is in an environment that nurtures him and make sure that he doesn't have to be a victim of the same traumas that his father and I were victims of.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nightmare. I know it had to be for his father. I know the complicated relationship I have with my father because of his absence and how that's hard to rebuild. I refuse to be on the wrong side of history with my son.
I would love for this to get national coverage. I really would. I really would. And anybody who is maybe watching, anybody who has any connections, y'all tap in, please, because this is injustice in its rarest form and truest form. And unfortunately, honey, we have got to wrap up. I hate to. We might have to probably bring you back, honestly, because real talk. I want. There's so much more that we wanted to get into. There were so many other things that we wanted to chat about, and I want to talk to you. I want you on as far as we didn't even get to talk about your music. We didn't even get to talk about your artist. We didn't get to talk about any of that. However, what we want is we don't want this to happen to anybody else.
No.
So this is why this needs to get national coverage, because some people's heads need to roll in a nutshell. So what
and it's a history of it happening in Atlanta.
Yes. So what I would love for you to do, because like I said, those of you who are watching, I need her to make sure that I need y'all to do what you can. Put something in this woman's Cash App so that she can get what she needs. And if there's anybody who has a connection, who knows of a lawyer in Atlanta, is what you need, of a custody lawyer in Atlanta, hit her up, please. Please, because as y'all can see.
And also, I'm asking for stories of other women who have dealt with issues like this in the family justice system. My email is purple, like the color, press, the number 7 at gmail.com. Send me videos of your stories. I will post them. I am doing research to actively engage this, not only for myself, but for all of the mothers who deserve a platform, who have dealt with this across this nation, but most importantly in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, because I know after talking to not only some of my artist friends who are going through this and have gone through this, people you don't even know. I want people who can come forward and speak about their experiences in family justice court, who are women who have gone through what I am experiencing, so that we can shed more light on it. Because there's definitely a weaponization of the courts against Black motherhood specifically, and women, period. And we need to redesign a world where everybody is seen, and not just the fathers or not just the rich in a courtroom system. And the last thing I want to say to you is I'm going to sing something that I wrote when I first moved to Brooklyn, New York. And I wrote it because my ex-husband said, "You're going to move to New York City and you're going to fail. They're going to eat you alive." He would say stuff like that to my own mother and to people who knew me. And so there was this energy of me not making it that was kind of circling around my new start. And I went to a producer named Raymond Angry, and he started playing the song. And the first thing that came for me is, "I travel way too many miles to get here. You can't tell me who I am. Walk through the valley of the shadow to get here. And I made my way downtown so I could tell you where it's at." Yeah. And that's all I'll say. I have made downtown so I can tell you where to get uptown. And I will not stop, not with my voice and not with this. So thank you for your time. And thank you. Thank you for letting me be here, because I can't lie. I have reached out to papers. I've reached out to blogs, and it's one of those stories that people are afraid to touch because of the amount of power in the room. the amount of powerful people in the room. When I got that advocate and my lawyer sent me all these padded billings for things they had not done, for things I had to do for myself, when I had to humiliate myself and put up a GoFundMe with my records out and have to answer to people asking them, why did you wait so long? It's like when a person asks somebody who's been raped, why did you wait? I was scared. I was afraid for myself and for my son that what I'm dealing with right now would happen. That, when I even asked for child custody in DC, and I did that first, the judge in Atlanta who went to Howard, same class as the judge in DC, called her up while I was waiting to be heard. And when I got in there, the judge threw it out after I worked on a motion for 4 days with family members who worked in the law who helped me, and the woman wouldn't even read it. I hadn't slept for 4 days. I fainted in the courtroom on the floor. They wouldn't even help me to my feet. Like the way that Black women are treated in the justice system, whether it's on our jobs or in our homes, just something has to change. And I don't want anybody to think I'm bitter, because really at the end of it, I would love to see there be a success story, a reconciliation between all of us. My ex-partner is still very much a part of my son's life. He and I are family. If we could do it after breaking up, being 11 years, he's still a good father to my son, still present. And the man I was married to and gave birth to this child with isn't willing to sit down at the table of brotherhood. Let's talk about that. Martin Luther King was a member of the Boule. He was a alpha, just like my ex-husband. And he sat down at the table of brotherhood and made something happen. And why can't we do the right thing for this child?
Because that's, at the end of the day, that's who it's about. That's who it's about.
That's who it's about for me. It's not about anger or anything. My ex-husband had a stroke last year. I cried with him. The year before last, I prayed with him. I don't hate him. I just love my son. And I want us to figure this out, because what's happening hasn't been fair for years. I was just too scared. And as I got me back, I decided that I could no longer stand idly by and watch my child not have everything he should have. So that's it. I don't want anything but goodness for my son. You can keep the now. Just let him come home.
My prayer is that you have that, and then some, that you get everything that you deserve, everything that you fought for. My mom said something, and it's scripture. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. So,
and I don't want.
I believe, honey. I believe that you two are going to be not just united temporarily, that things are going to be fair. I believe that things are going to be fair, and that I believe that your son, Miles, I'm calling his name out, that Miles' mental health will be intact.
Yes, he's doing better. We talk every day that we can, despite some of the microaggressions of his pop. We're doing it, and I even see God working in ways for my son's benefit that I didn't see happening with his father, for him within the home. And I know that I did the right thing, and I would do it again. I would get in that car with my baby, and I would drive them 8 hours home again. I would do it again.
Because you're a mom. Because you're a mom.
Period. And I'm grateful that, and I don't, y'all talking about that reaping season. I just, what I would really love to see is him just do the right thing so he doesn't have to experience that. Because we all experience it. I experience it. It's a boomerang. And I want him to prosper and be in good health as his soul is prospering. I want good for he. I was so excited when I heard about what his wife was doing. I think it is history making to have a Black woman in that position. I want good things for our people.
Yes.
I don't want any damage. I don't want no bloodshed. But I will also pick up my machete and my cross if I have to. And that's it.
Whatever's needed.
So thank you.
YahZarah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for telling your story. I appreciate you so much, so much. And everybody who was asking questions about where she can be, as hopefully you guys can see, her information is scrolling on the bottom. Follow her
I'm going on
Instagram, on Facebook. Come out to her because go make sure you follow her because she's got, like I said, she's got a lot going on. She's got a lot of shows and she's doing a tour. You can pick up her latest album, which is called The Ceremony, on all digital platforms. Don't just stream it, buy it, download it, purchase it, because that's where the money comes in. We're going to have another episode later where we talk about how very, very little streams get with artists. Honey,
it's robbery.
It really
it's
is.
New slave trade.
It really is. Honestly. So
it's sharecropping.
Everything and anything that you guys can to support my sis, do so, please. We thank you again.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of Speaking Plain English. Until next time, guys.
Peace, y'all.